Calaroga Shark Media.
Wow, hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Pretty busy one for a Sunday. We'll talk SNL in a minute, but I want to lead off with Bill Burr, who on his podcast suggested that we take the billionaires and put them down like dogs. Let me just play a few words from Bill Burr, and then I'll tell you what he said.
They need to be put down, like rabid dogs.
So I wanted to play the longer clip, but Bill really dropped a lot of F-bombs in it, so let me just read a transcript of it. The amount of people out there that are struggling, he didn't really do it in that kind of cadence. He spoke more slowly. Let me see if I can capture it. The amount of people that are struggling out there because of these effing billionaires, they got us all arguing, liberal, conservative. We got to stop doing that. I'm so tired of hearing about people going to bed worried about what's going to happen next week. There's so much effing money in this country, and there's so much work being done. And if you work a whole effing week at a job, you should be able to pay your effing rent. You shouldn't have to go out and get another effing job and still be struggling. It's bad for the country because the kids don't see their parents and they're not getting the upbringing they need. These effing billionaires, they need to be put down, like effing rabid dogs. They're rabid with effing greed and just going out and dividing everybody. The effing epitome of this now is like how divisive we are that the Gulf of Mexico is now the Gulf of America and people get excited. Like, how the F does that help your wallet? It's an empty gesture. It's also like a racist gesture. Like it's the white guy saying F Mexicans without saying it. Like who has an effing problem with Mexicans? What's the real problem? This is just such an ugly effing time. If you want to hear Bill yourself, that was on the Monday morning podcast, I think the Thursday edition, though. The big SNL 50 is tonight. I did a preview episode on Friday. If you missed it, some new information. A red carpet show today. Willie, Geist, and Leslie Jones will lead the network's coverage with help from correspondent Matt Rogers. Roger co-hosts Las Culturistas with Bo and Yang, if you're not familiar with his name. The red carpet show is 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. It will air on digital platforms, including YouTube, Facebook, Insta, X, and TikTok. Meanwhile, Kevin Hart will be the first ever on-court MC of the NBA All-Star Game. During the game, Hart will provide commentary from the court. The NBA said in a press release he'll be leveraging his long-standing friendships with the league's prominent players and his legendary status as an entertainer to add a layer of comedic disruption into the live game. Hart will be charged with hyping up fans in the arena and watching around the world alongside Ernie Johnson and team general managers Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, Candace Parker, and Kenny Smith. The All-Star Game is tonight at 8 o'clock on TNT, TBS, True Max, and Max. That's a tough call, but, there's that big SNL show tonight, Kevin. Sorry. By the way, looking ahead, I will discuss the SNL 50 show on Tuesday. I don't want to do a late night show tonight, and I want to properly put it together. So we'll talk about that on Tuesday. I'm super excited about this, and I'm super excited when British comedy makes the first half of the podcast. Channel 4 has announced a new sketch show from Mitchell and Webb. If those names don't ring a bell to you, they're the guys from the sitcom Peep Show, and they're the guys from a previous sketch show called the Mitchell and Webb Look. Now, if you're still like, I don't know who those guys are, you've seen a clip. There were two Nazis, and one Nazi asked the other Nazi, "Are we the baddies?" That's who Mitchell and Webb are. Mitchell and Webb in a statement said, when Channel 4 asked us to do another sketch show, we were startled, bemused, and available. It's a perilous time for the industry, and so it's our hope that relaunching the trickiest genre of comedy is a brilliant piece of counterintuitive commissioning. I think that's fantastic. Now, you might be asking yourself, Johnny Mac, what would it sound like if Weird Al sang that song with the chorus 8675309? It's called Jenny. What would it sound like? Well, let me tell you what it would sound like. That's from a fundraiser the other night, the Middle-Aged Dad Jam Band, which started out in David Wayne's garage, has become like a thing. There are a bunch of these, but if you're on YouTube, you'll come across Middle-Aged Dad Jam Band videos. They got together to support two charities, United Way of Greater Los Angeles Wildfire Response Fund and Pasadena Community Fountain Eaton Fire Relief and Recovery Fund. A lot of people got up and performed with the band, including Nick Thune, Will Forte, Randall Park, Taran Killam, and Weird Al Yankovic. The night also featured stand-up from Jeff Ross and Moshe Kasher. The entire thing's on YouTube if you want to check it out. Ari Shafir spoke to Fox News about pushing the envelope and said, it's like, okay, I mean, I could do easier bits that wouldn't make people leave angry, but I really want a hard-fought laugh. Those are my favorite laughs where there's really a risk of making somebody go, F you, my dad died in that. Ari said, if no one's walking out, you haven't found the line yet. For me, the stuff I like is right on that line where a few people are leaving angry, and I'm like, good riddance. Icon versus Icon had a fantastic interview with Felipe Esparza. I shared that in the Facebook group earlier in the week, a daily comedy news podcast group. Felipe said there are some comedians out there who've been doing comedy a long time. They have a killer hour they do on the road, but it's never been recorded. They're great comics, but no one has seen their 1 hour special. So they're the unsung heroes. They're on the road killing it, bro. People come to see them and are blown away. I do the same thing they do, but people have seen my jokes already. So I have to go out there butt naked with no material and try to come up with all new jokes all of a sudden. For Raging Fool, that's his new Netflix special, I see the jokes that my wife edited out. I work the material that didn't go up. From there, I write topical jokes like President Trump wants to make Greenland part of the United States and they want Canada to be the 51st state, but I live in California. Maybe we want to be a province of Canada. We want maple syrup all day. How did that sound? The Vancouver Dodgers. So I do have topical jokes to play along with the way, and when the topic is over, I just replace it with a new topical joke. Along the way, I'm also building a real set I'll have in a year and a half. It's always evolving. Really, really good stuff by Icon versus Icon here. NPR caught up with Ronnie Ching. The topic, seeking affirmation through crowd responses. Ronnie said, we are looking for a good reaction to a joke, specifically laughter. Yeah, clapter kind of sucks. But we, comedians, don't believe in our own marketing. Someone told me the best comics think their material is bad. And there's something to that, I think. I don't know any great comic who's like, oh, my material's the best in the world, you know? You're always looking at other comics and going, man, that guy's really funny. I need to write a better bit, you know? You never feel like you have the greatest joke in the world. You're always impressed by someone else's joke. That's how I feel anyway. Ronnie talked about his parents finding out he was a comedian. They found out when he got hired on The Daily Show. They didn't know what it was, but after I told them I got hired, they Googled it and they found out about it. And they were like, oh, you know, this is an important show. This is a famous show. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Matt Maloney on the Town podcast had a conversation with Bill Simmons, and they revealed Ted Sarandos, the CEO of Netflix, has kind of sort of thought about taking on SNL. Maloney says rumors have been around that Sarandos might launch a Friday or Sunday night sketch comedy show, perhaps even grabbing some SNL talent, but has too much respect for Lorne Michaels to actually do it. But post-Lorne, all bets are off. Maloney says NBC will walk right into it because once Lorne leaves, they'll start cost-cutting on that show because it's hugely expensive for what it is. Lorne has been able to beat them back, but they'll start to cut costs and Ted will recognize it and he'll swoop in. Simmons said if Netflix had done this 2 years ago on Friday nights, I think SNL would have been in real trouble. They would have gotten the jump on them. Good insight from Bill. SNL just goes away from mid-May to late September, and every 4 years you have these political conventions. That's the most fun part to parody. Netflix could have just launched a Friday night SNL show last May and crushed it for 4 months, and by the time SNL came back, it would have felt like a dinosaur. He's right. That is smart. Some more stuff about that Peter Kay heckling thing. Short version, UK comedian Peter Kay kicked out some hecklers the other night, and people are upset about it. Brian Logan in The Guardian writes, this is where the story turns from your regular comic versus heckler fracas to something uglier. The more so because Kay's brand is bloke next door homeliness, not Jimmy Carr malice. It's hard not to consider this incident in the context of recent developments in live comedy. The status of heckling, of comedians' interaction with the crowd, is never settled. Dealing with interruptions used to be a badge of honor. Then, as the art form gentrified, heckling fell out of favor. But now, thanks to social media, where comedians sell their shows on the strength of their quote-unquote crowd work, and indeed orchestrate audience participation for just that purpose, the cut and thrust of comic crowd backchat is back in vogue. Yes, TikTok comedians, social media people, you crowd work people have ruined it for everyone. In a world where younger comics, that was me editorializing, back to The Guardian, in a world where younger comics study how to do it just right, this crass instance of crowd work on Kay's part looks all the more of a misstep. He'll survive it. We're not in Michael Richards territory here. But Kay's man of the people reputation, the comic would all love to break bread with, garlic or otherwise, will be tainted. And I thought this was interesting. A study on computational humor argues that AI is already as good as late night jokes. I agree, especially on slow news days. I'll tap into the late night jokes here just to give the podcast some length. And occasionally I used to have the late bot write some jokes. The AI was tasked to make some jokes about evergreen news headlines that wouldn't get stale before the testing was finished. Both the joke-writing AI and the human were given 3 days to write punchlines, eliminating any speed advantage that the AI has. Actual comedians told the joke in a club environment. The comics were given the jokes in random order with no clues as to their authors. The comics told the audience they were writing some jokes written by a friend. In each set, the professional comic delivered 8 jokes, half by the human, half by the AI. In the first sample, 3 of the 4 highest-ranking jokes, including the top joke, were by the AI. The main conclusion of the study, AI-written jokes performed in front of a live audience elicited laughter within the same range as jokes written by a professional human. So I used one of my AI programs I use for various things here at the podcast company, and I asked it to write 3 late-night jokes. I will share them with you. Remember that I am not, in case you can't tell, a comedian. I'm not trained in stand-up. I'm also doing these in a basement. I'm not doing them in a comedy club, so you guys aren't warmed up. There's no laughter to react to. But all that, I don't think these are pretty bad. These are from the AI. Let me try and tell them properly. You see, Trump is trying to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. Yeah, it hit a snag. Apparently, renaming bodies of water requires more paperwork than pleading the fifth. Finally, someone is brave enough to stand up to big geography. You know what Trump's got to do next? He has to get the Pacific Ocean to show its birth certificate. Trump's also planning to rename Cuba to South Mar-a-Lago, and for Venezuela, he just wants to call it that place with the bad hombres.com. And that is your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the program, tell a friend about it. They might like it too. I will see you tomorrow morning.